next half hour, I'll be reading from the June 8th, 2026 issue of the Chautauqua Gazette on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The magic in music. Music often ebbs and flows with the contours of our life, narrating each phase as we are drawn in by different artists who match our energy in those moments. Whether it was the angsty rock that fueled a rebellious and confused teen and young adult, the deeper progressive music I explored in my late 20s as a developing musician, the down-tempo flavors of my spiritually contemplative time, or the nostalgic 80s and 90s rock that brought the big kid back out in me, I've always embraced music as a complement to my emotional voice. As a Gen Xer 80s kid, I was fully immersed in the pop music of the time, as most of us were. There was something about the dramatic yet upbeat and exploratory energy artists put into the music, making it a magical time to be a kid. Although every generation had music that was equally nostalgic, I can wholeheartedly, with a tinge of bias, say that the 80s were entirely unique, as if the world stood still for a decade to experiment with something before moving on. With that said, if you had told me that I'd be a musician who would go on to play over 1,000 shows with over 20 bands, I would have said you're completely out of your mind. Why would I have doubted you? Well, growing up, I was a massive introvert. Yes, I liked getting into things, but it was usually all done with me, myself, and I. I found comfort in my own thought processes and imagination, but I never really dared to project that outward to anyone else. The thought of putting myself out there, be it creating art that others could see or hear, or just being the focus of attention in front of a crowd, was challenging for me. So, as expected, I was not involved with music in high school to any degree, and it would have seemed like that would continue throughout my life. In 1995, I started my first semester at Jamestown Community College as an engineering major. My newfound freedom as an adult presented many pros and cons. I lost the regimentation of being a high school student, but gained a sense of exploration and the comfort of knowing I could put time and energy into new things. So although I wasn't fully invested at 18, still not completely convinced that what I was doing was what I wanted, I began to think of other things I hadn't considered before. At the time, I lived on the north side of Jamestown, as did my aunt and uncle. I would walk to their house before making the onerous walk up Buffalo Street to get back home. My uncle had an old Rogers drum kit in his basement with a really kicking stereo system, and they would let me play for long stretches, working through all kinds of music they had on CD. Although I was into 90s grunge at the time, I would still play the drums to classic 80s rock bands like Foreigner and Journey, along with some classic 70s rock. This happened almost daily. I'd walk to school, then head there after class and rock out. I made some decent strides in my drumming ability throughout the fall and spring semesters, and my father decided to buy me an old used Pearl Export set in the summer of 1996. Since I still lived at home, I set it up in my room, which was in the attic at the time. Not only could I see my own progression, but it was a complete catharsis, being able to physically and actively express emotions and energy through drumming. I would sweat it out, bashing my drums and playing all the music I loved at the time, much to the chagrin of the neighbors. The awe and enchantment of this new experience was unforgettable. In the fall of 1996, I approached Mike Kelly and Bill Ekstrom about playing in the rock ensemble. It was a credited class where you would join a group of other students who wanted to play music, write your own songs or rehearse covers, and then perform them at the rock ensemble concert at the end of the semester. At the time, this was something my generation was big into. There was an allure to having a band and being a musician, but I was still hesitant, given my very introverted nature. I really just loved the idea of playing the drums. I wasn't thinking about all the other things that would surface because of it. In the winter of 1996, I played my first official show at the Charmin Theater. I believe the first song of my first show was Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. I realized that although I was playing in front of hundreds of people, I felt surprisingly comfortable, as if I truly belonged there. All the creativity and emotion I had previously kept to myself were broadcast to an audience that night, and it felt right. Moving into the next semester, I couldn't wait to join the next iteration of Rock Ensemble. I was so excited to step back into it, playing with some new people and expanding my musical horizons. One day, I showed up to practice to find that no one was there except for our singer, Jared Monaco, and me. Another band was slated to practice at the same time in a different room, and they were short on members too. It was Andy Palermo's band. Because you had to practice to receive credit for that week, Andy asked if Jared and I would join him. We mostly jammed out to some random tunes that were popular at the time. Afterward, Andy approached me in the parking lot and asked if I wanted to try out for a band he was playing in. They had been looking for a new drummer. I was flattered, excited, and a little scared all at the same time, but I said yes. It was all moving fast, and I wasn't sure if I was ready. He said they were practicing the following week and gave me a tape of a previous show they'd played at 10 Pin Lanes. It was all classic rock I knew from growing up, but had never actually played myself. I listened to the tape over and over on my Walkman, trying to pick out every little nuance, all while thinking of ways I could put a twist on it. When the time came for me to attend the practice, I remember being extremely nervous. I knew I'd be doing a few things I wasn't comfortable with, like meeting new people and playing and speaking in front of others. It was all wrapped up in the worry of whether I'd fit in. It was that day in May 1997 that I ended up meeting some of my best lifelong friends. I remember walking down into the basement of Andy's parents' ranch and meeting Chris Raffa, Jason Swanson, Andy Conti, and Jamie Smith. It was the Porcelain Bus Drivers. We played through their set list, and it just felt magical to be part of something so different from anything I've ever done. It was one of those moments as a young adult where you can feel yourself branching out and growing. That introvert was coming out of his shell. They ended up bringing me on as the band's drummer, and the rest is history. We kept getting bigger and better as individual musicians and as a cohesive band, and we started landing bigger shows at better venues. We had a horn section, focused on harmonies, and brought an energetic stage presence that was fueled by the bigger crowds that we were playing for. We were a bunch of 20-somethings having the times of our lives, translating that energy to the scene every weekend. That was before social media. People knew that if they wanted to socialize and meet new people, they had to go where the people were, and a lot of the time, that was our shows. We played at crowds that broke the fire code, a whole room of happy people, dancing and singing. It was memorable. It was beautiful mayhem, and I was beyond blessed and grateful to be a part of it. Other bands were thriving too, and it felt good to be part of a scene and have an extended family. It turned out to be a huge blessing. I stepped out of my comfort zone, found a whole new world, and discovered a myriad of things about myself that opened me up to a different life. A huge shout out to everyone I shared the stage with, to all the amazing bands that were such a big part of the city's community and vibe, and to everyone who came out to the shows. Ultimately, after a transitional time in my life, I decided to leave the porcelain bus drivers in December of 2015. I thought I was done with music and intended to pivot my focus to other things. I got heavy into spirituality, learned Reiki, and started a wellness center. Through all that, though, music never went away. It just showed up in other forms. I ended up joining two bands, Trip the Deuce and Cold Lazarus, with Cold Lazarus becoming a band that toured heavily and made a substantial push into the Buffalo jam band scene. It was as if the magic of my original foray into music had been rekindled. I felt inspired to play freely and write original material. Although I left the band at the start of the pandemic in March of 2020, it was another musical experience that left me feeling blessed and grateful. The music I made with Gavin Paternity, Adam Gould, Drew Minton, and Jeremy Bunce will always be something I'm honored to have put out into the universe. As someone who hopes to be a father one day, it's also something I'd love to share with my kids. Somewhere in the middle of all of it, I earned 2 bachelor's degrees, one in mathematics, 2002, and one in computer science, 2010, and built a life around teaching high school and college. My software development company, Scrappy Apps, tutoring mathematics, drum lessons at Infinity, and the wellness studio where I do Reiki on North Main Street. I also do web design for the Chautauqua Gazette. But if you asked me what actually held it all together, it was never any of that. It was always the music. It still is. The friendships, the community, the version of myself I never expected to meet, all of it traces back to a sweaty kid in an attic bedroom, bashing through songs on a used Pearl kit while my patient and saint-like parents listened to all the commotion. He had no idea what he was starting. He just knew it felt right. And every time I sit down behind a kit, that kid is still in there, doing the thing he loves. Turn up the heat this summer with your community newspaper. In our quest to expand our reach and relevance, we are extremely proud in this edition to announce our brand new party in the CHQ section of your weekly Chautauqua Gazette. Beginning this week, we are launching an imprint and online summertime go-to guide for all the hottest bars and bands in Chautauqua County. We will work hard to be your summer source as you plan your week and head out for some fun. Why the quest? Since first buying this beloved community newspaper from its esteemed founder Stacy Hannon 2 years ago, I've had scores of well-meaning readers suggest you should make the Gazette like the old Nightline, a prominent Jamestown-based entertainment publication from yesteryear that specialized in giving readers the most comprehensive glimpse of local entertainment. I wasn't opposed to incorporating such a concept into our existing community news format, which showcases local organizations, events, and small businesses. But like everything on our to-do list, I knew it would be a project. I recently hopped online to check my Nightline facts, and interestingly enough, AI told me this. Nightline magazine, formerly a local print media and magazine publisher located at 192 Falconer Street in Jamestown, New York, was dissolved and is officially recorded as permanently closed. If you're looking for current, localized community news coverage or events in the same region, you may be interested in other active local publications, such as the weekly Chautauqua Gazette. So, here we go. In our partnership with our community, we are thrilled to step up to once again expand and continue doing our best to serve you. Each weekly edition through Labor Day, we will now feature all of the top participating entertainment venues within the centerfold section of this newspaper. These venues will also be featured on page 2 of our weekly event schedule and highlighted for your easy planning convenience. Additionally, we've created a new link on our website where you may access this complete list anytime with a corresponding one-stop shop on our social media sites. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Chautauqua Gazette on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Even more importantly than our efforts to promote the fun you need and deserve, we endeavor to support all those small business owners who work very hard to provide the inviting venues for us to enjoy said entertainment. We welcome the summer for some extra relaxation and vitamin D replenishment. Meanwhile, most bar and restaurant owners work harder than ever during this season of fun on our behalf. They help drive our Choose Local energy and fuel our tourism economy. They are uniquely and largely responsible for creating the summertime vibe that keeps locals and visitors alike loving Chautauqua County. Bar and restaurant owners are also the primary supporters of our thriving local music scene. Local bands, music festivals, and outdoor musical performances experience bolstered success because of our strong base of restaurant and bars. Nightlife in Chautauqua is a credit to their commitment and ingenuity. As we kick off our party page, we are excited to feature bands on the local circuit. This week, we are proud to especially highlight 2 musicians who are near and dear to our Chautauqua Gazette hearts. One, arguably representing our strong legacy, and the other, our promising future. Mark Scapoletti and Ben Cornell. Mark Scapoletti, a longtime beloved local musician, is also a mathematics and music teacher, mobile app/web developer, and our Chautauqua Gazette digital genius. We are so fortunate to share his story on this week's cover page. It's a story of a quintessential Jamestown son who has continued to reinvest his time and talents in our community. He is as humble as he is great. And please pardon my unabashed mom moment as we also feature my own son and rising musical star, Ben Cornell. At just 21 years old, this past weekend, he has found quick stardom with his college band, Friend of a Friend, at Miami University of Ohio. The band rose to packing Miami's largest concert venue to the tune of several thousand each weekend, to hitting the road on the college circuit tour, and now recording their first album available on Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite streaming services. But what makes my largely self-taught son so special, in my humble opinion, is that he sprang from the shoulders of some of the local greats like Mark, in the creative trenches of Infinity Performing Arts, and on the stages of his supportive church families at First Covenant and Bemis Point Methodist. In Chautauqua County, most know Ben for the local band he founded with his high school buddies, New Juice, and he's back this summer to bring his sound to any venue that wants to host him. Please check out more Ben details on page 3 of the edition. The moral of the story: this summer, please go out, have fun, support our local business owners working hard on your behalf. Support our local bands, seasoned and budding musicians alike. And as always, thank you for making the Chautauqua Gazette your go-to for all things community. We appreciate your partnership, love, and loyalty. Read on and party on. 154 sonnets. It was much like running a marathon, a matter of endurance, but even more so, a matter of ego. You start off strong, confident. You breeze along, seemingly effortlessly. breathing easily, high on the oxygenation. Along about midway, you begin to wonder, to adjust your pace. Doubt creeps in. Whatever possessed you to take this on? Toward the end, you are limping, staggering, proceeding on the dwindling momentum, until the finish finally appears, as if in the mirage within reach. Eventually, you arrive with an exhausted flourish. 154 sonnets. The bard did it. I can do it. I am his freak. He will motivate me. That initial resolve, so naive, will test my will. My first sonnet, that experiment in form written years ago, practically wrote itself. Then I discovered my very first muse, she of the red lips and beauty, my own dark lady. I have long esteemed the bard's 154 sonnets. My dark lady, her identity, like his, unrevealed, was and is an ideal and a torment, an obsession unobtainable. Yet even so, what did she gift me? She allowed me to indulge in fancy despite reason's caution. Indeed, the conflict between reason and fancy, so much a theme of Shakespeare's work, prose, and poetry, is a major theme of my 154 sonnets. Shakespeare, with reasoned perception, defined love as a form of madness. I am perfectly in accord. That I identify myself with the bard, of course with broad tongue-in-cheek, is a vain conceit I admit to, and I qualify my vanity by insisting it is a humble vanity. I balance my pride with considerable self-deprecation, also with tongue-in-cheek. I proceeded in the endeavor, always with the understanding that the bard was looking over my shoulder. Most, but not all, of the 154 sonnets reflect specific Shakespearean text. Each of the major plays, particularly the tragedies, is addressed. Shakespeare, freak that I am, I return repeatedly to the text for inspiration. I marvel at the psychological depth of such characters as Falstaff, Hamlet, Iago, Lady Macbeth. What may not be so much understood, except by Shakespeare scholars, is the political content of his work. I began my sonnets in 2016, when the succeeding decade roiled implacably and without mercy. Such is the anger and angst I experienced, and continue to experience, that I felt compelled to divert from the whimsical to the dark. I called on another muse, my dark muse, to inspire my anxiety. A proper balance, I hope. The thing about a marathon, once you complete the first, you perhaps foolishly contemplate the next. So this week now, I enjoy the privilege of placing my sonnets before the public. Jamestown Container Companies acquires Syracuse Corrugated Box Corporation. Jamestown Container Companies announced the acquisition of Syracuse Corrugated Box Corporation, further expanding the company's footprint across New York State. Founded in 1956, Jamestown Container Companies is a family-owned packaging manufacturer, specializing in custom corrugated packaging, retail packaging, displays, and packaging supplies. The acquisition of Syracuse Corrugated Box Corporation strengthens Jamestown's Containers' ability to serve customers throughout central New York while continuing to provide responsive service, high-quality products, and innovative packaging solutions. This acquisition represents an exciting step forward for a company, said Joseph R. Palmieri, Chief Operating Officer. Syracuse Corrugated Box Corporation has a strong reputation for quality, reliability, and customer relationships over many years. We are proud to welcome their customers into the Jamestown Containers family. Syracuse Corrugated Box Corporation was known for its commitment to craftsmanship and customer service. Jamestown Container plans to build upon that legacy while investing in continued growth, operational efficiency, and expanded capabilities for customers. Customers of Syracuse Corrugated Box Corporation will continue working with familiar contacts through the transition. Syracuse Box was started in 1969 by my dad, Richard Wild, and his business partner, Wyman Carruthers. The business was the foundation of our family for many years, said John Wild, former part owner of Syracuse Box. When we decided to sell, we liked that Jamestown Container was a family business and shared the same principles of respect for their employees and customers. It was a natural fit. The acquisition also aligns with Jamestown Container's long-term strategy of strategic growth throughout the region while maintaining the values of a family-owned independent manufacturer. Our companies share many of the same core values: dedication to customers, commitment to employees, and pride in delivering quality work, said Bruce Janowski, Chief Executive Officer. We believe this partnership creates exciting opportunities for the customers that we serve. Jamestown Container Companies is a family-owned packaging manufacturer headquartered in Falconer, New York. Since 1956, the company has provided custom corrugated packaging, packaging supplies, foam solutions, displays, and contract packaging services to customers throughout the Great Lakes region. Jamestown Container Companies operates multiple facilities across New York and Ohio and is committed to delivering innovative, cost-effective, and environmentally responsible packaging solutions. Jamestown Farmers Market announces summer mobile market schedule. Jamestown's Farmers Market, JFM, announced today its summer mobile market schedule, culminating in 7 stops across Jamestown and Falconer. The JFM mobile market brings the same fresh, local produce from the traditional Saturday farmers market on 3rd and Pine, along with weekly staples to requested areas around the city. New for 2026, the mobile market will also offer a U-Pick food box for SNAP recipients. We're excited to expand the mobile market this year, said Nick Wythe, Director of Food Access at Jamestown Farmers Market. Adding stops in Falconer expands our ability to connect with more people who want and need access to healthy, fresh, and local food. The addition of our new U-Pick food box for SNAP customers reduces barriers for people who need access the most. The U-Pick food box program is a 10-week program heavily subsidized by a New York state grant and is offered to customers using SNAP benefits. Participants will receive a weekly customized box of food with fresh produce and a combination of eggs, meat, and bread, and more. Boxes are valued at $20 and will cost customers just $5 to present SNAP, card, and ID. Customers can sign up starting at the first week of the mobile market. The mobile market accepts SNAP for payment, and SNAP users can also save 50% on all produce through the Double Up Food Bucks program. To learn more about the mobile market and the other programs and services available and offered through Jamestown Farmers Market, please visit www.jfmny.org. You've been listening to a reading of...
Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day of the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization